distorted view.
Why is it that some among us manage to live meaningful and inspired lives, while others are trapped in the rat race? Pick an era in history, and you'll find a handful of people across industries and continents who challenge the status quo. But for most of us, responsibilities, self-doubt, and the daily grind can make us feel trapped. We get worn down and burnt out and start to lose faith in our vision for the future. We begin to think that maybe there is no real path beyond sheer luck to fulfillment and financial stability. I've always been fascinated with learning about how others buck the norm. Are there patterns to success and fulfillment that the masses are missing? Is genius really what you think it is? Is genius something we all can achieve? And if so, what leads to genius? How do we speed up progress in business or in life? Can serendipity be engineered? Can luck be manufactured? Can convention be defied? Can ordinary people find genius? Join me as I uncover the process, the insights, the story behind ordinary people's stroke of genius. This is the untold story of ordinary people with genius ideas. Our next guest is an entrepreneur who has truly mastered the art of conference hacking and connecting with people. He's managed to meet icons like Carmelo and Elon Musk, who are truly shaping the world that we live in. He's also an entrepreneur who truly understands the meaning of grit. Today, we're gonna get into the details of his story, and he's going to share the tips and tricks behind his genius. Please welcome the co-founder of Kinetic and the host of the podcast, Off the Grit, Ben Hart. So why don't you start with telling us a little bit about your upbringing?
I grew up in Poughkeepsie, which is about an hour and a half north of the city. In my school, in middle school and high school, I was a minority in my school, so I went to a predominantly black middle school and predominantly black high school.
Really? Interesting.
Yeah, and it was a great experience for me. I got to learn a lot from that. I played basketball, I played a lot of sports growing up, all this other stuff. But I always wanted to box. It wasn't until I got out of high school, which is when I ultimately wanted to leave Poughkeepsie for a long time.
Okay.
So when I moved down to the Bronx and started going to Manhattan College, that I started boxing when I got to watch the Knights. I boxed for like 6 years in the city. I started my journey there. I was always into fitness and healthy living regardless, and I wasn't following like my friends who wanted to do other things. And I kind of like did my own thing even apart from my family. Like my family's not a super close-knit family. Okay. I always had my own routine from like I can remember 10 years old on. And I was just always going to the gym on my own.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So you went to Manhattan College. What was your major?
I majored in psych and bio.
Okay.
So I started off in psych, and I was like, I don't know, like I'm going in here, taking out a lot of loans to do this.
Yeah.
And at the time, social wasn't really, you didn't see the opportunities as clearly as you do now. So at the time, I thought to myself, well, what am I even, I'm taking out all these loans to do a degree in psych, and I got a lot of people in my ear. And so I decided to double major and go and get a bio as well.
Okay.
So I wanted to make it worth it. I stayed an extra year. And and I did boxing the whole time I was in college. The boxing kind of kept me sane. I grew
to like really be passionate about it.
Yeah, to fall in love with the art of boxing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So once you graduated, did you know what you wanted to do after you graduated?
No, not a clue. Like I didn't have a clue. I didn't know what I wanted to do going in. And I didn't even know what I wanted to do in my senior year graduation day. My junior year, me and my friend Billy, we worked on this concept of a startup together. We wanted to pursue this idea where we can capture the energy that was going on in a gym and renew it, right?
Okay.
And ultimately have a net zero energy space, gym space, where it combined geothermal, solar, and human power to just create a new initiative and new incentive for people to work out.
Okay.
Long story short, we worked on that for like a year and a half, and we went out to San Francisco. We crashed a couple of VC meetings. These VC meetings were basically people in energy efficiency space, people creating light bulbs, people from across the world were pitching venture capitalists to get funding for their idea or for their company.
Right.
Along the way, we met with Billy's uncle, who was an angel investor at the time.
Oh, okay.
And when we ran him through our ideas, in our heads, our naive little brains were like, oh, he'll invest. He'll probably invest in this. And not really knowing business too well, he was quickly to say, you should probably get some experience in the fitness space, regardless of how much you've been in the fitness space, not in like the business side, you don't have any experience on that side.
Right. Okay.
And I took that as like, he's right. I should go work at Equinox for like 3 months and then do this again.
Okay. So it gave you some direction.
It gave me a different goal to set my mind to. So I wasn't stuck in the moment of like, oh, we're just waiting for funding. Like it was the worst idea ever.
Right.
To wait for funding for something that requires, it's such a capital intensive business.
Right.
You know, but so they gave me another milestone. So I came back, I went to the Upper West Side Equinox and I wanted to be at the front desk. I specifically said, you know, I would love to work at the front desk here.
Okay.
And they looked at my resume and they looked at my background and I was like, no, we'd love you as a trainer.
Did you have any certifications? I know you said that you boxed all throughout college, but like, did you have any specific certifications that like qualified you, or did they just like see you?
No, so the way Equinox works is, right, so the way Equinox can work, and it does really work like this if you dig into it, is that you don't have to be certified when you go to Equinox, but you have to be in the process of getting the certification when you become a trainer. So if you don't have your certification in 90 days, if you become a trainer at Equinox, then you know you can't be there. But that could be any certification. It could even be theirs, right? So they have their own certification process. So, you know, I refuse to be a trainer at the moment.
You refuse? You know, wait, why? That's interesting. I
refused because I didn't want to, at that moment, I didn't want to limit myself to being a trainer. I never really, you know, sure, I thought it would be fun and maybe a good way to build relationships with people, but I just had my sights on something and I didn't want to let that go because of the commitment. Once you get clients, so you commit to these people. I wanted to just learn the operational process of a high traffic gym so I can understand the space. Okay. And that's what I tried to do at the front desk.
Okay. But that's interesting. Okay.
They came back to me like 2 or 3 times and were like, we'd really love you to be a trainer. And they convinced me to be a trainer. So I became a trainer.
So then you became a trainer, and then how long did you stay a trainer? Before your next step?
Yeah, I stayed a trainer like 2.5, maybe 3 years. So I became one in 2011, 2014, I stopped. Okay. It wasn't just like a stop date, you know. I went from being very high performing to, you know, trickling down when I started the other company, Kinetic, in late 2012.
Okay, awesome. So tell me about Kinetic. How did you get the idea for Kinetic? Like, what were you thinking? Yeah. You know, did you have a team?
Let me take it back again. This idea was in my head. They convinced me to be a trainer. I finally was like, all right, fuck it, I'll be a trainer. And this was right before graduation, my senior year. You know, I went home for like 3 days after my graduation, and then I went right down to the East Village, and me and my old roommate, Eric, who later became my co-founder, got an apartment down in the East Village. When I went down to the East Village, I didn't have any money even saved up in college because I wasn't working a lot in college. I was boxing a lot. Okay. I took out loans that would enable me to eat in college. Yeah. So I didn't have any money saved up, and my parents don't have any money saved to give to me either. So I was just kind of like in a place where I was like, oh shit. So I had to borrow $1,000 deposit fee from Eric. Okay. And I had to borrow another $1,000 for the first month's rent, because I think it was 1,000. Yeah, it was 1,000 apiece. There was 3 of us. Okay. And so I had to borrow the first payment I had before I started work. So I finally got the place down in East Village. I was happy about that. Started working, and then started building these really great relationships as a trainer and at Equinox. You know, and like the client base at Equinox is a driven client base in their own right, very successful in what they do. That makes sense. Very thoughtful. And it was good. It was a good way for me to start building relationships with these people that can either just give me feedback, and I can have a source of, you know, because the relationships I had at the moment were college kids, whatever. And this was a way for me to build relationships with older people that have been more established, more successful. And that made me see the value in building and going after building relationships with those that were older than me. Gotcha. To learn. Okay, this is how it started. Yeah, totally. Because I was like, I was in the depth game at the moment. I was like, oh, this is great. And like, it was no expectation of the relationship. It was just more of like, how can I build the depth part? Okay. Because I really enjoyed it. Yeah, and you're good at it. But so the interesting thing about it is that you're training them. How did you incorporate these types of conversations when you were training? Yeah, so like when I was training them, I just cared. Like I wasn't going after anything, because again, at the time when I started to train them, I didn't have this startup in mind. It was something that I wanted to do with the gym space, but I put that on the back burner because training kind of engulfed me. I wanted to prove myself with numbers. I wanted to establish myself. Along the way, Facebook was a big tool at that moment. And social media was on a big rise at the time. You know, not anything close to what it is now, but definitely, Instagram was getting going. People were starting to use it more. So when we first started the company Kinetic, and we started it based off of a place where we wanted to make information more accessible from valid faces in the industry. So we originally in 2012, we launched a platform called Kinetic to help do this, to help bring information. So we would source information from trusted professionals in the industry, and people were also able to create profiles. So we wanted people to come on to get information, share information, and potentially look for a service.
Got it. So it's almost like a social media for like fitness in a sense?
Yeah, and at the time that was more relevant than the conversation is now when we talk about it. I originally came up with the idea. I was on a trip from California back here. So I went to California for 4 days and stayed in a hostel in Manhattan Beach by myself. Always wanted to go.
Okay.
I saw the movie Blow and I always wanted to go to Manhattan Beach.
Nice. Okay.
So I just had this idea on the way back, considering what I do and how could I create some type of power gym on the digital space.
Okay.
That was kind of like the transition of the idea of power gym, but making it more digital.
Okay.
So then the idea sprung up, and then I got home and I ran it by Eric, who was my roommate, who was also at the moment, he was working for the Federal Reserve in finance. I already told him the idea, and I was like, do you want to work on this with me? Do you want to be a part of this? And he was like, yeah, absolutely. At the moment, I was like, all right, we should raise funds for this. In order to do that, I needed a good finance guy that could help me with some projections and build out a real business model for it. That's why I talked to Eric.
Okay.
So I was like, Eric was down, which made me excited. I was like, all right, let's do this.
So you feel like it gave you momentum?
Totally, and it gave me things that I couldn't do. Like I just couldn't do it.
He complimented you well.
Totally. I couldn't have been a better company. We worked on that for, 5-6 months together, just concept. So you have to build out the business model to prove out there's a real opportunity and a real market for it.
Right.
We did that to the best of our ability. It was just us two at the moment, and I was like, well, I think I have a couple people who would be interested in helping fund this. It kind of goes back to how I built deep relationships with the people I was training.
Right.
And I figured that if I could run just the idea, not even like any expectation out of it, but just the idea to see what they think. And if they're attracted to the idea, they'll either say, oh, I know this dude over here or this woman over here, and I can hook you up, whatever.
Right.
And 3 of the people I was training at the moment ended up investing.
Wow, that's a lot of people.
Yeah, one of those people, Liam Lynch, became our co-founder. He was the first investor.
Okay.
And became the co-founder of the company. So it was me, Eric, and Liam.
Is he older than you? Yeah, I'm just curious to see if he's like...
Yeah, he is. He's about 10, 12 years older.
Okay.
He's been involved in a number of larger successful companies and acquisitions in the past. So, he brought a real good structure to something that Eric and I were starting. So extremely lucky to have the kind of experienced mentor.
What was his background exactly?
Worked in mergers and acquisitions within larger Broadway companies. So Broadway.com, a couple of the companies that he used to own in the past.
Okay.
He ended up getting out of that, and then he went more or less full-time in with us on this. Just, he had other things he was working on, but he spent a lot of time with it on this. So we ended up getting the company going. Yeah. And ended up raising some more funds. So we ended up making a lot of mistakes along the way. We ended up hiring Outsourcing Development, which for a technology company, I would never recommend doing. Though we did it, we lived and we learned, right? That's kind of like the base.
Why wouldn't you recommend doing it?
Because the costs end up continually increasing. If I'm an investor and you have a company and your company is a technology company, like it doesn't exist without the code, right? But let's say whoever operates that code is not a reliable part of the company,
right? Or
it costs too much to maintain that code. It's a liability. Looking back, when you're starting a technology company, it's extremely helpful to have a technology co-founder.
Good. So it was a good lesson learned then.
A big one, yeah, a big one. And we had to pivot probably a good 8 times on different concepts.
Really? Wait, so were you a trainer while you were working through that?
Yeah, but I was as the months went on, I lowered my training and focused more on this. So all of my training money and things that was
like reinvested to this?
Everything.
Okay.
Except for the rent that I had to get, right?
Right.
The basic rent that I had to pay. And then it just got to a point where I felt like I was at a personal low financially.
Okay.
And I would start asking myself questions, not to the point of not at all do I want to do this anymore. It was like, what do I have to do to continue?
Okay. Wow.
You know, and even the funds that we raised, none of them went to us personally.
Okay.
So we had to find our way, whether we had to dog walk, whether I had to drive trucks.
You did everything you needed to do.
Yeah.
Anything you needed to do.
Yeah, dog walk all over. I used to drive like those like one truck things, like just like for the day to like,
wow. Okay.
you know, you make like, it was like $250 a day. It was well worth it for me.
Yeah.
I was like, all right. But you only got them once in a while. Like I got them like a couple times a month.
Yeah. So like, how did you keep the faith though? I feel like it's because you said that like you were doing this for like 2 or 3 years, and like you were really like you were hustling every month. That you're trying to make your rent, and you were trying to like reinvest the money. Like, how did you actually stay confident about your idea?
A really important thing is believing in yourself, and then surrounding yourself with energy that reinforces the belief, right?
Yeah.
Because then if you have those, like if you have a good energy field around you that reinforces self-belief, those two things alone, none of the broke matters, none of anything else matters, right?
Yeah.
Like all of a sudden those things become irrelevant.
You're low-key unstoppable.
I don't mean to get too cliche about it, but you have this like really undeniable like mission and passion for what you do, and you've gotten to a point where you've invested so much already.
Right.
You've already launched it. You've told so many people about it. Like people, you know, and the people that are also working with you that might have stock options in the company or other types of equity in the company, are also counting on you.
Right.
You know,
so you feel like you're being held accountable.
Totally.
Yeah.
And that was a big deal for me. And it was a big deal that Liam believed in us, and
right.
you know, Eric, like Eric took more risk on it than I did. And a lot of people don't see that. Only reason I could say that is because I took more risk on the surface level. Like if you look at it, but if I didn't have my identity. So I talked to Eric, we had a podcast, we talked about this.
Assisting you on at nights and weekends with pitch decks or models or, you know, whatever you needed kind of sparked that entrepreneurial bug in myself that, you know, there's more than just working a corporate job. You know, one day just made that decision to leave the corporate life and do, you know, our startup together full time. And, you know, it was a tough road, but it's definitely the greatest decision I ever made.
And so we were staying at this apartment with no water, no shower, no toilet, wasn't even working. So
buying
we just had
a water bottle at Westside Market so we could brush our teeth at night.
Oh my God. No, and it all like goes back to like why you're even doing what you're doing, because without that why, you'd never even do those things in the first place. You wouldn't even be stupid enough to do them in the first place, because why would you get that uncomfortable?
But like, I didn't have an identity when I did this.
Okay.
Like I was kind of like, what do I do? Like I'll go all in on this, I'll risk it all to do it. But like Eric, his whole life has been bred to be in the finance space, you know, be successful in this.
Okay.
His whole identity was that.
Right.
And for him to tell his parents, his girlfriend, his friends that that's not him anymore. Like that to me, that's a bigger risk.
Yeah.
I just feel like, come on, you risked your identity on being that guy that everybody deemed what could be successful in that space to like totally rip out and do something that was completely fresh, new, you know, probably not going to work because that's how startups are, but still do it anyway because he had motivating factors just like I did. It was like, oh, we're all in it as a team. The team's the thing is a big deal.
Interesting, yeah, because it really holds you accountable. So where is Kinetic? Yeah,
so in 2015, 2016, we regrouped and we had to kind of like pivot what we were doing. Okay. Just based off the feedback and where we saw the market going, so we started streaming fitness classes. That was in 2015. And then we had to pivot, really major pivot, to redesign the whole site based off of streaming. Okay. And it was just, you know, something that we raised a little extra capital to do, all these hurdles have to go through, and then and then we had our new identity of a streaming platform. So the mission still stayed the same. We wanted to make healthy living more accessible to people across the world. So it was still in there, just different product. So then we did that, and we did that for a number of years, as well as started on the side. We started another company entity called Q Media, and we started producing video content for larger media companies, more established media companies that wanted to start producing video, like Self Magazine or Well and Good, you know, some Condé Nast entities like Self and a couple others. Health Magazine, which was under Time at the time.
Today is a big day. Kinetic launches on Zumo. So Zumo is this really dope new OTT platform that's available on all LG TVs, Panasonic, and Vizio. I don't know what it looks like, but today is a really dope one. Eric's supposed to be here to help me do this. He's not here. I don't know where he's at. So I'm gonna run through the channel. It's our first preview into it. He is here. He sneaks in. Little mouse over here. This is the menu bar. So we're in lifestyle. Boom, 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 boom. There it is. Eric, what do you think of that? Right at the top. All right, all the yogis, we got some yoga. Strength and cardio, so all the workouts that we did are now on Zumo. Check it out. If you got one of those TVs, check it out. If you don't, hopefully it's coming to you soon.
I really want to get into how you've gotten people to invest into Kinetic and all your other businesses. I feel like you've gotten some high-profile people to invest in your businesses. Can you tell me a little bit about who those people are and walk me through how you've met these people? Because you have a little bit of a knack for meeting whoever you'd like to meet.
When it comes to like an investment standpoint, like the people I've gotten involved, the people I've been just built deep relationships with. When it comes to the people I've worked with or have aimed to work with, or if we're gonna get into that part, we might as well just get into the part of like me, like what was my motive behind trying to go meet people. I feel like, so me as a person, I'm hypersensitive to how people are feeling in certain situations. I'm pretty hypersensitive to it, and I very much value depth of relationships and what can make people feel like you care. But when I'm with people, I tend to really try to live in that moment and in that now, and not try and get distracted or make somebody feel like I'm not there with them.
Got it. So you're really like hypersensitive of their experience of you.
Hyper.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
And how do you feel like you've developed that sensitivity? And like, why does that matter to you?
I've thought about this a lot actually lately.
Yeah.
It's a big deal for me because it matters a lot for a variety of reasons. One, because as much as we don't like to say that we don't really care what people think, I do care what people think. I think it's just human nature. I think anybody who says they don't care is actually covering up the fact they do. But like for me, so my brother has Asperger's. I don't know if I told you that before.
Actually, I don't think you did.
Yeah, my brother has Asperger's, and growing up, I know what it's like to be around somebody who doesn't know what's going on socially, does not know, like genuinely doesn't, not like trying to act it or fade it out, or that he's just distracted on something else, like genuinely doesn't pick up on your cues. Yeah. And it's really interesting to see, like now that I look back, of what kind of role that played with me. Yeah. And I feel like because of that experience, like I know what it's like to be around somebody like him who genuinely does not pick up on social cues and is generally unaware of things that are going on. Right. That I, for whatever reason, I feel like around 18, 19 and beyond, I became hyper aware of and put it way up in my value system. Hyper aware of what's going on in people. I'm not saying that I can figure out what's going on in anybody. I just feel like I'm ultra sensitive to it. When I was in the midst of what we were just talking about with Kinetic, to tie it back together, I was at a place where I feel like I wanted acceptance from people when before I could accept what I was doing or be determined on what I was doing. I feel like I wanted validation from some external source at some point. Okay. And I'm only saying this in retrospect because I could look back and be like, why did I want to meet these people or be in front of these people or talk with these people? Like what about them was so special? It really wasn't that they were so special. It was just that sometimes I valued their opinion or buy-in on something that I was saying or doing. Whoever I did meet in the past, however I got there, I felt like I was doing it for the wrong reasons.
Interesting. And that's just like brave. That's actually brave to like actually admit, because I feel like most people wouldn't admit it at all. I mean, they maybe say it to themselves, but they wouldn't actually like actively reflect and share, It's
funny, because it's funny, I actually see it now a lot. And it's the only reason I can even say that about myself because I see it more now. And it pulls me away from that so much that like I really don't want that to be my identity. I would try to get into any place possible where I felt like I could meet somebody that would, like there was a purpose behind meeting them, not just to meet them, but I felt like I needed to have this conversation with them. I needed to meet their manager. I needed to get in, and like I was there to get in. Like I was definitely not there to settle for not. I would not leave without getting in. If I had to like climb the roof or whatever, like I've definitely done that before.
You've definitely done that before?
Yeah, totally.
Oh my God. So, okay, let's talk about that. So let's talk about your knack for meeting people and like conference hacking, because to me that is like super incredible. How did you like even come up with this like roadmap to do that? Tell me about the progression of conference hacking.
There was one conference, there's just so many, but if I could think back to a good example, like, and how I think about them. I think it was TechCrunch actually. and it was in New York. This is not one of my first. This is one of the ones I think is more applicable right now, which is like, I had to figure out a way to get a tech brunch, and I didn't have the money to pay for any of those tickets. And to be honest, now that I'm thinking about it, it was Carmelo that I wanted to meet, because Carmelo has started a VC fund, and I was just so attracted to VC funding and whatever. And he started a VC fund with his partner. I forgot his name, but he was a part of the NBA as well.
Okay.
Not a player, like a commissioner or something like that. Carmelo was speaking, and I was going to make sure that like I had a chat with one or both of them. Before I went to the spot, I looked at like the blueprint of the place. So I think it's very important. So like I did like have this weird method of approaching crashing or meeting people, and it had to do with a very strategic standpoint. It was how do I, eliminate all of the possibilities of failure. And in order to do that, you kind of have to be a little bit prepared. There was times I wasn't prepared, still made it work, which is just lucky me.
Yeah.
But there were times I was a little bit more prepared.
I want to stop you there for a quick second. So how did you even come up with the idea to look at the blueprint? Because like you said, you wanted to make sure you didn't fail in terms of, getting into the conference. But like, what made you think of that idea?
When I was a kid, I don't know, I always wanted to be FBI.
Okay.
And I wanted to be like SWAT or FBI. Yeah, I was always into it. So I would always take myself above the situation and look at like what would decrease my success rate. If I'm in and I don't know the entry points and I don't know the exits, that's a problem.
Right.
So you're going in the front, and yet you don't even know that there's like 5 of the doors, and there's like a roof hinge that you don't even think about, like stupid shit.
Oh
anyway,
my God.
but you need to like at least. And a lot of places you won't find blueprints to, but there are some famous places or some well-known places that you can find if you look hard enough. Like you can find, and it sounds ridiculous, you can find blueprints. There are these places that you can find online.
Yeah. And
I had a general idea. I don't know if I actually got the full blueprint to this place, but I definitely had an idea where the doors were, possible entry points. So possible entry points equals possible security. Right? You have to just like equate the two.
Okay.
So you have to like at least give a little bit of scope. And if it's at night, lucky you. You don't really get to be seen too much, and you can look at the points.
Do you like wear black or something, or like are you wearing?
Nah, I was just saying. I did a variety of things. I wasn't stuck to one idea.
Okay.
I wasn't like this is exactly how I'm going to get in. I just did anything I did to get in. Like the goal was just to get in. I didn't really care how it happened. Right. So whether it was that I met somebody outside and they gave me their pass, or they were leaving and I got their pass. That's happened many times. It's also happened many times where I've looked up the passes online from the previous year, and I've looked at the Instagram posts that were going on during that day, what the passes do look like, and see if they mismatch or if they're matched at all.
Okay.
And you try to replicate them online and try to print out a pass.
That's very clever.
And then but that's what the beauty of Twitter and Instagram was at the moment, which is like, people that are posting obviously have those passes on, so you're like, oh, got what they look like, and I got that there's an orange thing or a green one, whatever the thing is, right? You as much as planning as you could do, if you feel like that's the way to go, then you can go that way too.
You're thinking outside the box, and I feel like it's something that other people don't think about. I think it's good to kind of have other ways to accomplish your goals, as long as it's you're not hurting anybody,
right?
You're not stealing.
As long as it's not bad intentioned and
exactly, yeah.
Nobody else hurt, none of that.
Yeah,
you're fine.
Yeah. Your intention.
So this particular one, I think this particular one, I ended up getting a pass from somebody outside or leaving. Got the pass, ended up walking through, no problem there. And then at the time I even got there, which was funny, that he was on stage talking.
Carmelo.
Yeah, I was over here. This is the main section. And then you have the back section, which is like the media goes and whatever.
Okay.
And when he started talking, I kind of think in my mind, I'm always thinking like, well, what is the next phase of what he's doing? Is he leaving? Probably. Like he's not just going to stay around and like take pictures. Like so I'm anticipating which way he's going to go. He's on the left side of the stage, he's probably going to go for the left side. So you better like get around to the back. As soon as he goes up, you need to go over here, not like wait for him to leave, then go. It's not going to work.
Right.
You got to go around and wait your turn.
So you already know the layout of the building, and then because you know the layout of the building and you're thinking about the next steps of like what he's going to be doing, then you're able to kind of like meet him where he is, or you just do it on the spot. You just think about.
No, I mean, I do both. Like I do a little bit of both. Like I definitely, if I know that entries and all those things, I'll think about that and keep that in the back of my mind. Yeah. But in real time, right? Like he's sitting on the left side of the stage. When he leaves, you get to see where they come up from, where they leave. They pretty much, it's usually the same point.
Right.
So keeping that in mind, as soon as he goes up, you go when he enters.
Okay, and then you go and you say what? Like,
But
how
at
do you?
at the moment, if you wait to the last moment, they'll give you probably more questions when you walk back down, like, because he's about to come off, like, and you're entering, what are the coincidences, but if you go back when he goes up, it's a little bit less friction and you can have a better story to tell. Like if I go there and I'm telling him what ABC, which I've done, which happened at that moment.
Like you present your press.
Yeah,
Okay.
I say I'm with my press and I have my phone, because again, at the time, with your phone, you can get everything done with your phone, you don't need it like you used to, you don't need a big camera crew, none of that.
Right, okay.
So, that's exactly what I did, but there was less friction at the moment because I got there before it was about to be done. I was already just back there waiting. And I was back there waiting at the press side, just chilling, hanging out. Nobody really questioned me too much. I had one question, that was it.
But did you have a press badge around your neck?
No.
No, you just you were in the main section, you just saw where to go, you went there, kind of stuck your way back there.
Yeah, just stuck my way back.
And nobody actually noticed that you were there?
No, nobody noticed.
Okay.
But if you go at the right time, it matters.
Okay.
So I went back at that moment, I waited a little bit, waited till he got off, he came around, went around to the press, whatever, then he came over to me, by me. I still have this video on my Instagram, me and him, like this, talking.
How was today? Today was awesome, man. Wrapping up right now. Check this out. Carmelo 7 is in the book. That's it, baby.
But at that moment, I asked him, I was like, I would love a contact to reach out. I think I have really something that you might be really interested in, considering your history, considering what you guys are investing at the moment, because I've looked that up. Obviously know he's doing VC at that moment. So I came with that. Like, I wasn't just like, hey, check my shit out,
So what was the first thing that you said to him? Because that's difficult. You're going up to Carmelo Anthony, who you probably, I'm assuming you really admire him, and you want him to invest in your business. Like, what's the opening line? Because that's the part that I feel like people fumble on a lot of the time.
I think that you have to put yourself in his shoes.
Right.
I think that if you go up to somebody like him and you're like, yo, I got this, he's gonna be like,
You're like, this approach is...
Yeah, it's like you're not building rapport there. You're not building trust. You're actually pushing yourself away because he's looking at you like a fan. I've been in that position where I felt like I was a fan. I'm like, I'm not a fan. But if you think about what somebody like him would be impressed or would like to talk more with, it would be not a fan, right? It would be like somebody that he could potentially see opportunity with or doing business with. So I literally just come up just like I do to everybody now. And at that moment, that was when I started getting a little bit more mature with my approaches.
Right.
Aside from that, but I would literally just go up to him and introduce myself. What's going on? My name is Ben. I just wanted to approach you with an opportunity I felt like could be interesting. And it was just very genuine. He's either he's willing to hear the next 10 seconds or he's like, no, I'm just too busy.
Right.
And if he's too busy, I go to his partner. I had no, there was just...
You're like, I'm not going to stop. I'm
Yeah,
going to get you, I'm going to get your partner.
Yeah.
Okay, I like
So,
that. That's cool.
That's what happened. I went to him and I ended up talking. He was like, yo, I'd love to hear more. Can you go to my partner? And which I did right after, and I got his information. So it was good. Those little things happen, but I think it's more about...
that's a big thing. I feel like it's a small decision, and then, it's like a...
Yeah, and a lot of these things is really just about, what are you pitching, essentially? What are you asking for? What are you going to give?
Right.
I think you have to kind of, know that. And if you have that, then you should feel comfortable enough with being as genuine as possible, talking about what you have. But it even hurts me to even talk about this. It's so shallow because it seems so shallow. You're like, yo, not to you, but to me, looking back, I'm like, damn, what dope.
But to be honest, I don't think it's shallow if you've grown from it. You're explaining your
Totally.
Your mindset around it, and
Totally.
you have clearly grown from that point in time.
Totally.
And you were reflective, and I think that's what counts.
Yeah, and it was almost like if you asked anybody who knew me at the time, that was my strong suit. They'd be like, oh, what is Ben good at? That's what he's good at.
You're a problem solver. That thought outside of the box.
Totally, and that's definitely a good way to look at it. I've looked at it in that sense too.
Yeah, so let's talk about your perception of bending the rules. I know you, and I know that you're very well intentioned, and that really what you're talking about is kind of being very persistent and persevering, and trying to accomplish whatever you set out to accomplish. So can you explain a little bit about that mindset and how you even developed that mindset? Where did it come from?
Yeah, part of it came from those experiences I had, which was
okay,
wait a minute. You know what I mean? It was almost like, wait a minute, I don't actually need anything to get in here. It was just I had this line that I said, I think I caught a couple of videos that are titled this way, but it's break the rules, not the laws. You just have to understand that there are no rules. I know it kind of sounds a little controversial. It's not controversial. There are no rules into doing things for a good cause. There are laws. Don't break the laws. Just break the rules.
That's a good one.
And it was just like pretty basic. It was like pretty basic concept, but like I think we as a society and people in general, we have a structure to the way we think about things, and automatically we put situations and people and cultures and experiences into boxes because
absolutely. Oh my god, I literally am like writing a blog about that as we speak. About the being put into boxes.
Right, and I don't think it's a problem until you need to do something that shouldn't be in a box, right? So it's like
definitely,
I think for us, like it's easy for us to understand things we put in boxes. It's like human nature. It's like, oh, that's a computer. Like that's the technology box for me. Duh.
Right.
It makes it easy for our brain to like digest instead of like really trying to understand the scenario. So like when there are problems, I think it's depending on what space you're in and what you're trying to do. But if you're trying to start something or be a part of something from the ground up, and do something a little bit different, I think we have to like take a step back and just kind of come to a realization that there's not a blueprint. More than likely, there's not something that came before that you can follow an exact replica of.
Yeah.
And once you realize that, then I think we come to the conclusion that you can now make your own guide.
What you're saying is if there isn't a model for something or how to do something, or if there's a goal that you want to achieve that maybe somebody else hasn't achieved before, then you probably have to carve out your own path and figure out. And once you start to do that, you also realize that it's possible to carve your own path. And, maybe there's traditional goals, say you want to work in finance, but you can still figure out other ways to reach those goals. So it doesn't have to be those traditional paths.
Yeah, I think as kids, we're very much primed our whole lives into
so following rules,
believing certain things, following rules, kind of just taking for everything for what it is and shut up and do it. Or there's a variety of ways we can talk about it.
Yeah.
But and I think that it's just while there are deep ingrained rules in us, and the rules that I think matter are the ones that have to do with people and value systems. When it comes to the rules and social structure to way we live, I just think that we need to start realizing and thinking a little bit deeper on one, how to problem solve, but more importantly, when you start putting things in too much of a box, then you're trapped by the identity of the box.
So tell me a little bit more about your conference hacking and like some of the more like who were the most interesting people that you've met or the most interesting stories you have around.
Yeah, I think an non-traditional story I could talk about is the one where I went to San Francisco for like an Elon Musk event, and it was when he launched the Model X.
Yeah. So you met Elon Musk, that's what you're saying?
Really briefly.
Okay.
Yeah, really briefly. His team and him, but it was, I'll run it back, but it was right before he went on stage to launch the Model X, which was very late, and I flew out to San Francisco.
When was this? Like a couple of years ago? Or?
Yeah, 15 or 16. So I wanted to, this is one of those interesting cases again. Like, there's really like, what do I expect from the outcome? Nothing really. Like I to be honest with you, I wanted to meet some people on his team. I don't want to say names, but I wanted to meet some people on his team, and like, I wanted to connect with them.
Okay.
And that was one of the main purposes, aside from being at a cool event and meeting Elon, because I've always been an Elon fan. I admire his willingness and kind of disregarding of fear.
I wouldn't even let my friends invest because I didn't want to lose their money. I had a choice of either put the rest of the money in or the companies are going to die. I ended up putting all the money in and borrowing money for rent from friends. 2008, we had the third consecutive failure of the Falcon 1 rocket for SpaceX. Tesla almost went bankrupt. We closed our financing round 6 p.m. Christmas Eve, 2008. It was the last hour of the last day that it was possible. We would have gone bankrupt 2 days after Christmas otherwise. Business or personal wishful thinking causes a lot of trouble. You really have to ask whether something is true or not. Does it make sense? And if it ever feels like too easy, it probably is.
How do you plan a business where the rocket business, some of these things are going to blow up? How does a business plan
I didn't really have a business plan.
I went out to San Francisco and I stayed in the city, and then I took a train down to an area where they have the Tesla kind of headquarters, where they have all the manufacturing and everything. It was where the offices were, and they were doing the launch event. It probably took like an hour and a half. And see, this is one of those situations where it wasn't a well thought plan. It was just like a plan that I was like, you know what, I'll get in. That's just the mindset I had. I wasn't like too thought out with it, but the turn of events that happened were just more of like a combination of not leaving and luck, and I think that when my intention was just so set on it, I don't want to get too like metaphysical, but like when my intention was so set on getting in or just being a part of that atmosphere, that I just wasn't stirred away from it because I invested too much to get out there in the first place. Like, I was already out here, I'm not going nowhere.
That's amazing too, because like you live in New York and you literally flew all the way to San Francisco and told yourself, I'm gonna meet Elon Musk at this conference. Don't have a ticket, but that's my intention and that's my goal.
Yeah, and it was actually my stupidity didn't really have like a solid plan. If I was super prepared, I would have came with the right materials.
What are the right materials?
I would have had a card with my name on it with some media attached to it, even if I wasn't on the list. Right? Like I could have had a story, which I tried with my story. It just didn't work because I didn't have anything to back it up because I wasn't prepared. So there was, anyway, long story short, here's what happened. There was, at this Elon event at Tesla, there was 3 entrances. One was for the employees, one was for the media, and one was for the buyers. And the buyers consist of everybody who's bought the car, who's pre-purchased the car, that has come there to see what they purchased. And the buyer section is like a VIP section. And the buyer section had a little outside section where people were sitting outside, getting drinks or whatever. And I told myself, because I just, I probably couldn't convince anybody I was a buyer at that moment. And I'm definitely not an employee. And I think from an employee standpoint, like, you're not going to get in without right credentials. There's really no going around that, I think. But the media, there's might be room for finagling. So there might be room for some storytelling, some whatever, conviction of some sort. This one was the hardest one I've ever done, but also the most fulfilling one I've ever done.
Why was it the most fulfilling?
It was the most fulfilling because I got to meet him briefly, and it was just like part of that reward for me at that moment was just getting in and being in the atmosphere. So I flew out there anyway. I go up to those are the 2 other entrances over here. I went up to the media side. I got rejected 3 times. Well, my first time was, trying to create every excuse and the reason in the book that I'm not on that list and what media company I work for. Here is the editor-in-chief. If you'd like to give them a ring, this is their email, give them a shout out. Because I didn't know who the editor-in-chief was, but I knew who she was, and I knew her email because I have an email service that can detect it and find emails. So
what's that email service?
One easy one is Reportive. That's a pretty basic one, but that's one that you can confirm or deny anybody's email. LinkedIn about Reportive. So it might be the LinkedIn sales tool. Anyway, so what you do is you just download your thing and you type in all the variations of that email, and it'll, probably over 90% of the time it'll confirm that email is stuck to that person. But generally speaking, they're,
first name, last name.
First name, last name, or first initial dot last name. And typically, a lot of them have the dot in it unless they're like a founder or unless they're high up, and maybe it's like MG at da-da-da, or I've noticed that. Anyway, so I've said that, and I don't think they took me up on that. They were pretty tough for me, and I was like, oh my god.
What was the response? Like, what do they say? Give me like a scenario. Put us there.
We'll put you there. I literally came up with an excuse. I was like, listen, she's, I'm not on the list. I started this company a couple weeks ago, and I'm here at this event. I flew all the way out from New York to attend this event, and if you'd like to reach out to the email, please reach out to the email. This is what it is. And I think at the moment, they were just so busy, right? What are they going to do? Reach out to an email and confirm that I pretended like I was going to go on a call and get them, but I was just trying to think of my next strategy. Amateur move. But one that I was dealing with at the moment. But at that moment, when I went to go take that call, I looked around other parts of the building where I can slide myself in. And once I get in, I know that I can get backstage, but I wasn't in. So I had to figure out a way to get in. The side door had this security guard that kept coming in and going out. Like, he was just there. And I was like, listen, I could sit here and I could try to build rapport with this guy
Right.
and soften him up to the point where maybe he's like, you know what, fuck that, man, get in here. I'm not
Right.
gonna say it.
Yeah.
But I was like, that's too much time wasted. I know what it takes to build that rapport. It's not as quick as that.
Right.
It's gonna take a little while, and the event's about to start.
Right.
So I'm like, how do I get in? Like, I'm not leaving. I just have to figure out how to get in. So I was denied about, I think 3 times they saw me out front of that media side. And I was like, man, I have to go around to the other. I'm gonna go around to the other side of the building.
Mm-hmm.
This is one I did not know a blueprint of. It was one of their, warehouses, whatever. So I was walking around to the other side of the building to get into this event. And as I'm walking around, of course they see me walking around. They're like, what's this guy? They're probably looking at me like, what am I doing?
Right.
Again, it's kind of like an amateur mistake on my part. But I was just like in a different place. I was like, I'm not leaving. I just wasn't leaving. I'm not leaving this place until I get in here. So I'm walking, and as I'm walking, I see this like 70-year-old Asian dude in a white suit leaving the buyer section to go to his car.
Okay.
And I mapped my walk towards him just to, who knows what kind of interaction can come from that. So as he's walking out, I'm walking, we're walking, and we bump into each other. And I'm trying to think of who said the first thing. I might have said, hey, how you doing? How's everything? And he said, good. My wife, I can't find my wife. And I'm trying to call her cell phone, and I don't have my phone on me. And I'm trying to find my cell phone. Like, I'm just lost. I'm pissed off because this event is starting late, like really late.
Yeah.
And I said, you're fucking right. This thing is so late. I flew all the way out here from New York, and you will never believe it. They're not letting me in.
Yeah.
And I said, I work for so-and-so. And I said, before I even complain about that, like, here's my phone if you'd like to give her a call. Just dial it in my mind. So he calls her, no answer. And I said, just give her one more time. Call one more time. So he calls her again, no answer. And then I just take the phone, and he just goes off on like a tangent on this event and how pissed off he is that the event's running late. He's a buyer. And I was just in a place of like, I couldn't agree with you more, Tom. I was like, can you imagine, take how pissed you are and then add mine to it, coming out here from New York. He said, are you kidding me? They wouldn't let you in? I said, no, they wouldn't let me in. He said, he took his buyer chain and put it over my neck and said, come with me. So we ended up walking around to the buyer section. And the best part, I think this part, was he walked me in behind him. And the people at the entrance, 2 of those people were the people from the media side. And they saw me go in, and I just gave him like a little like nod, and I just walked right behind him. So we walked into this side, and like this whole place was lit up. And then he brought me backstage to like where like Elon's team was. And then I just got back there, and I got to meet these people. And I'm just sitting back there, and I'm having conversations with his team, and I meet him very, very briefly before he goes on stage. But
and what do you say?
Well, he was about to go on stage. It was like, hey, Ben, Hart, nice to meet you. It was really nothing, to be honest with you. It wasn't anything I wasn't even in that position to like want to even, I think it's a bad timing to do anything besides your name.
Right.
I was like,
Yeah.
So I'm just sitting back there, and I'm talking to some of the people that he's with. Then the event starts, and then I have a blast at the event.
That's so funny.
And I meet these people at the event, and I'm getting outside, so they let the people test drive the cars. So now I went outside and started test driving the cars because I was at the buyer's side now.
Right, yeah.
It was just a blast. And I think that moment, I just had a really fun time. I met a lot of great people, and still a lot of those relationships I'm still keeping somewhat contact with.
Really? So
yeah, that was that one.
If you're meeting people like Elon Musk and, Carmelo Anthony, I'm just curious, like who were the most influential mentors for you throughout your journey? I know you had some people who were investing in, who were actually literally investing in your business, but just curious, like, were they people? Did you, what were some books that you read that influenced you along the way?
I'd say personally, professionally, was definitely Liam, because we were just so close, and he was more like an older brother than me. Like, there was 7 years actually in New York I went without having an apartment, just place to place.
Really? Wait, tell me more about that.
Yeah, ever since I left. So in 2005, 14. No, I was at 13.
Ever since you left?
Sorry, I had an apartment. No, I had an apartment.
In the East Village.
And it was basically between 6 to 7 years,
Okay.
of being apartmentless, just kind of like floating.
Wow. And you didn't think about going back to Poughkeepsie where your family's from? You just like worked? No. So you just like...
No, definitely not. Like, no, but the whole process was that like, you know, I'd float, like I had really great resources and people to use that would either help me out, let me use the room. I was on couches for months at a time, different couches, not even just the same couch, different couches. But I'm so nimble. I had such nimble. I don't have a lot of luggage.
Yeah.
No
Wait.
baggage.
So, but yeah. No, tell me. Like, what did you do with your stuff? Did you put it in storage or something, or you just like sold all your furniture after you left the East Village? Like, what did you do?
Well, even with the East Village, I didn't even have much furniture. Like I had, we had a couch that like one of my roommates had. A bed, I had. I actually took that bed and like got rid of it.
Mm-hmm.
Like I didn't have that much. Even my drawer was IKEA. I think I left that, but like all I had was clothes. One of my friends had like a whole place I could like store something in. So I had like something there, but it wasn't like a lot. It was just like, I'm pretty like simple when it comes to that. But at that moment,
awesome though. I mean, honestly, like that's.
Yeah, but
like,
at that
thank
moment,
you for sharing that, because like a lot of people wouldn't want to share that.
Yeah,
I feel like you're being super vulnerable, but I really appreciate that.
Yeah, of course, and I know, and I realize why nobody want to share that. Like, it's not like a thing to be like, yo, I'm not proud of that, but like it is definitely something that has shaped who I am. I don't get too attached to certain things like that are not like feeding my soul. Part of that was where I started off the grit. You know what I'm saying? Because like
tell me more about Off the Grid.
Yeah. You know, you get to a point where your bank account just starts going down, right? And then it's at 1,000, and then it's at 750, and then it's at 5, and then it's at nothing.
Yeah.
And then you're like, well, how, you know, like, oh, I need an apartment or I need a guarantor. And then you start to realize you don't actually need any of those things. What was first for me was the company, mainly because I had people that were involved with it. And when people start investing in the company, you know, you take that very personally. I took it very personally. I didn't want to like, you know, there's a lot on that. And if you just, for some reason, can't take that kind of pressure, then you just lost trust with people. So if I have to go, whatever, like not having a lease for 6 years, whatever. So be it.
Wow, that's amazing. Like for 6 years, it's a long time.
Yeah, so be, like if that's what it took, then like that's what it takes. It's not even like a thing. It's just kind of like, okay, cool. And then what got me to that point was to realize that like, actually don't, you know, I'll just go sublet. For the first month I was asked, I subletted.
Right.
And then I just started staying at my friends and people's, and I probably took a few other months of subletting, like 1 or 2, maybe 3 out of those couple of years.
Yeah.
And then I just started to actually, you know, ask and use resources.
Right.
I feel like a lot of people are like, oh, you know, I'm resourceful, I got resources, but like nobody really uses them.
That is so true. Honestly, like that's a really big thing, because for me personally, I feel like one of my biggest weaknesses is really like I sometimes have trouble asking for help.
Yeah.
Like I want to do it all by myself. I'm like, okay, I can figure it out. I can do this. You know, I mean, right now we're using my friend's apartment, but to be honest, I was like, you know, I don't like to ask for help, because I don't like to inconvenience people.
Right.
And again, like we were talking about, like I'm always thinking about other people's experiences. So I think it's a powerful thing to ask for help when you need it. You know.
Totally, and I think I think you're right too, because I'm very sensitive to that too.
Yeah.
But it got to a point where I was like,
you needed it for survival.
I definitely needed it, but it was also the point. It was like depends on what you ask for, and I feel like, you know, a lot of people, depending on what it is you ask for, are not only willing to help, but it makes them feel fulfilled when they do. It's
That's true.
It's like, you know, oh wow, like I can give something to somebody that I care about, that I have a relationship with. Right. Not something, oh, I'm being convenienced. Some people will think that. Yeah. No, but the people, once you gauge that, you'll be like, oh, they're not actually feeling convenienced. They feel fulfilled just being able to do something. That's so true. You know? Yeah, that's another perspective I've never actually thought about. Oh, really? But I think it is true, because, you know, like I feel like it's come up, and like, you know, I'll ask somebody for a favor, like, can you read this over for me or whatever, like, you know, if you have time. And I'm like, you know, sorry to bother you type of thing. And like, I've actually gotten the response before. And like, now I'm just putting two and two together. Like, what response have you gotten before? Where they'll be like, you know, listen, let me help you. Let me be, you know, let me have kind of like, I don't want to say the privilege of helping you, but like, let me feel fulfilled by helping you. Right. You know? And I'm like, well, that's interesting. Like, I'll think about that. I'm like, they're just saying that to be nice. But it's actually true. Like, now I'm like really actually realizing. Isn't that a crazy way to think about it? Yeah. Not that you're saying that you're asking, like, again, you ask for the wrong things or something that takes too much of this. Yeah, sure, of course. But like, if somebody has something or an opportunity or a place or an extra bed or a couch, and they know that somebody that they care about really wants it, it makes them actually, they have this feeling of fulfillment by giving back to some extent.
Yeah.
Especially to somebody they care about.
Right.
So it's like, sure, yeah, there definitely can be those times, right, where like you feel like you can't ask for something because it just seems like, don't be so needy. You know what I mean? Because I tell myself, like, you don't have to be like, I definitely am super aware of that.
Yeah.
But I'm also aware of those times where it's like, that actually feel really good if I ask you about this.
Yeah.
Or for this.
Yeah, no, that's a really good perspective.
Yeah, so
I really
like,
appreciate that.
Yeah, don't be wrong. That eliminates a lot of things that can come into your life, like, you know, not having financial stability, not, you know, having freedom to do things you want to do.
Right.
You know, not having the ability to go out when, or whatever the case is.
Right.
All those things.
And just out of curiosity, is that some, like, did you say like, I'm going to just sublet for like, or like, I'm going to just do this for maybe 3 to 6 months or a year, and then it turned into 6 years? Or then did you realize like, okay, no, this works, and, you know, I don't know, like, how did you kind of think about that?
It was kind of like the first one you mentioned, which is kind of like, you know, I didn't really want it to be 5 or 6 years. Obviously, like, you know, you want, but again, that I think for me, in retrospect, I appreciate that journey for sure, because, you know, it makes you realize certain things. It makes you more flexible, makes you more adaptable to things. And like, you know, I don't have too many things that I'm overly invested in, so I'm very nimble. So when something comes, I can just go. Yeah. And parts of that I like, and parts that I don't. I think there's pros and cons with it, but like, I'm definitely more nimble, I would say, than the average
person. Yeah.
Probably.
Awesome.
Probably more nimble, yeah. Anyway.
Well, anyway, I want to thank you for being on the show. I know I've asked you so many questions, and our conversation has lasted way longer than I thought it was going to.
No, it's great. I appreciate it.
But yeah, no, thank you so much for, you know, joining and sharing your knowledge and being so open and vulnerable, because I feel like a lot of people can learn from, you know, your stories. So I
appreciate you as a host. I really do.
Yeah.
You've been very good, like, very, you know, willing to share, also to get me to open up. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's been a pleasure. Where can everybody find you on social media?
Yeah, you know, I share a lot of my life on Instagram. Benny Inc. BENNYINC. That's pretty
Insta.
simple.
Okay. What about your show?
Yeah, Off the Grid. So Off the Grid it's there. It's on YouTube. I have it on Instagram. Instagram is Off the Grid Show.
Okay. We'll leave it down for you guys below.
I appreciate that.
Okay. Awesome. Okay. Cool.
Thank you.